Power Rangers, a TV show I grew up watching over the years along with The Simpsons and WWE. I absolutely enjoyed watching Power Rangers due to the amount of goofiness and fun moments to witness. And plus, there's nothing more satisfying than watching the heroes prevail and the evil destroyed. I even went on to make a top 5 favorite Power Rangers TV show, link in description if you want to see that. Of course, I've spent a lot of time on the video games about the Power Rangers, like Time Force for the PlayStation 1, Super Legends for the PlayStation 2, and I even tried out Wild Force on the Game Boy Advance as a young kid. But one of the Power Ranger games that really got my attention was Dino Thunder for the PlayStation 2 because this game does something different compared to the other games in the series. Now, as far as what I think about Dino Thunder as a TV show, overall, I felt it was a pretty solid season, as it features character development with the 3 Rangers and delivers some nice nostalgic moments to pay respect to the old school days. So let's check out the video game and see if it holds up well today. The game opens with Connor telling Tommy that Ethan and Kira have disappeared. Apparently, Mezagod's right-hand general, Zeltrax, has drained the powers of the Megazords and sent them to a different location. Connor and his Tyrannosaur have escaped just in the nick of time, but the Tyrannosaur is still low on power. Tommy suggests that Connor takes the Zord to the tar pits to regain its power, and once that power has been restored, it's up to you to save the missing Zords and to stop Zeltrax. The story is decent, nothing really too special I'm afraid, and throughout the intro, I noticed something straight away that caught my attention. And that's the actor, Jason David Frank, is not voicing his character in this game. Also, RIP to Jason Frank.
Okay, let me see if I can get in contact with them. It's a long shot, but maybe they are still in communication range.
Now, of course, the budget for the game's development might have been low so that they couldn't afford him for some voice acting at the time, but it is strange to hear a different person's voice, as you will mostly hear Tommy talk to the player throughout the entire game. It's on par with Mr. Krabs having a different voice actor in Battle for Bikini Bottom, as they couldn't hire Clancy Brown.
I've got a few golden spatulas that I'll be willing to trade to you for some of those shiny objects.
I also find it strange that Dino Thunder's theme song is absent from the main menu. I have heard Time Force having their theme song in their video game, so it's weird that instead of that iconic Dino Thunder music, you have a forgettable generic song playing in the background. So there are 2 game modes to partake in the game, and we'll start with Adventure mode, as it is basically campaign mode. And here's why I said earlier in the video that the Dino Thunder video game does something different compared to the others. And that's the fact that you can play as the Megazords. You don't control as the actual Rangers at all. If anything, all the Rangers do is say their dialogue while you are controlling the Zords. Each one has a unique playstyle, and you start with the Tyrannosaur. Over time, as you progress, you'll later unlock the Pterazord and the Triceratops as playable characters. 5th try. Woo! The Tyrannosaur can jump and shoot its Dino Blast at the enemies, the Pterazord can fly up really high so you can see what's down below, and the Triceratops can reflect enemy attacks right back at them. Triceratops is probably the weakest Zord to play as in my opinion, because even though it has a good amount of hit points to withstand, it can't jump or shoot its weapons at enemies, which makes the Zord almost completely useless. Of course you can play as the other Zords in Adventure mode, like the Dimetro Zord, but they're only useful for 1 or 2 missions, and that's it. The Pterazord is probably my favourite Zord to play as, and that's due to flying up high and looking for some collectibles or the next mission. I do find it strange that the 6 Ranger Zord isn't in here as well, as I kind of feel it's a bit of a missed booking opportunity. Each Zord will also have a special attack. You can use them to break down difficult objects or remove a swarm of enemies nearby. Control handling hasn't aged well unfortunately. It sometimes feels awkward to control a Zord and move the camera around. I don't know if Dino Thunder has the option to strafe because that'll be really helpful and it would make the combat feel a bit more smoother. The graphics here are fine, not the best graphics I've seen on the PlayStation 2 system, but definitely not the worst. I can tell that the developers did try their best with the materials they had in their arsenal, but I can't really help but notice that some areas to explore feel lazy in design, like Reefside City for example, as the buildings look very similar to each other. Besides Reefside City, you can explore the Tar Pits, Reefside Canyon, Jungle Island, and the Lava Fields. But all of them aren't exactly memorable locations for me, and the reason being is that you only spend a short amount of time in those areas. You transport yourself to that location, complete a few missions, and you're off in around 15 minutes or so. And it's not enough time for me to fully get myself invested in those areas. And speaking of missions, you do partake in several missions to progress into the game. These may include defeating a wave of enemies, destroying many objects, and protecting the Brachiozord as it slowly moves from one side to the other. I would have liked to have seen different kinds of missions because they repeatedly rehash the same ones, but just in a different landscape. But I don't really mind them here, as all of the missions don't overstay their welcome, and you can easily get through them. If you do end up failing, you will have to try again, and that includes listening to the same dialogue again before retrying. It's strange to me that I can go through this game like putting on a shirt that fits just perfectly, but when I was playing this game as a child, the missions kicked my ass. It probably might be because I was inexperienced at video games at the time, so I wasn't ready for the Dark Souls type of challenge that was Power Rangers Dino Thunder for the PlayStation 2. That was a sarcastic joke. It might have been due to the enemies knowing exactly where I'm running to, so they just shoot at the area I'm heading towards and I suddenly get hit. It's not bad nowadays, as I now have that experience. I can easily dodge the projectiles and continue the mission. It's not terrible, but just annoying. And don't get me started on protecting the Brachiozord. These missions were the bane of my existence as a child. I'm not joking. I always seem to get the Brachiozord hit by mistake, and I have to redo the same mission over and over and over. They were absolutely horrible back then, and replaying the game now in the year 2023, it honestly wasn't difficult. I managed to beat those missions in just one swoop. So I think there are some difficulty curves here and there, but it'll all depend on your skill levels if you have played this game before, or if you want to try it out for yourself. Another reoccurring thing about Dino Thunder is every time you step on a driving car by accident, Tommy will call you out for not being a responsible ranger. And this happens every single time.
Watch it! There may be people inside. Try not to be so careless. Watch it! There may be people inside. Try not to be so careless. Watch it! There may be people inside. Try not to be so careless.
I'm starting to get flashbacks in Time Force on how I gotta be more careful.
I've gotta be more careful.
The two collectibles you can find and obtain are Dino Eggs and Dino Gems, and by collecting enough of them, you'll unlock even more missions in Power games. You can play with the Zords in sandbox areas, and the cool thing is, you can play not only Zords from Ninja Storm, but even Wild Force as well. And that to me is the coolest thing in this game. Just having the option to play as different Zords from different Power Ranger shows not only delivers replay value, but it's also a nice thing for die-hard Power Rangers fans. Especially if some people out there haven't experienced Wild Force on the Game Boy Advance, then it's a close second. And of course, in the extras, you can listen to the soundtrack and view the models of the Zords and enemy models as well, and you can also look at the movies. So I asked myself a question after playing Dino Thunder. Does this game still hold up? And honestly, not really. While the graphics are passable, I can't say the same for the gameplay and the controls. Missions, while easy to get through, feels very repetitive and similar, and I do like the option to play as Zords from different Power Ranger shows, but at the end of the day, the entire game is a pretty short experience. So even if I can't recommend this game to everybody, but for Power Rangers fans, I 100% would recommend giving this game a shot. As I've said, it's a different type of Power Rangers games, and one that should be experienced at least once. So I reckon if you got the extra cash and time, give this game a shot and see if you like it. To me, it's just an average game. But anyway, that's going to wrap up this video. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as always, my name is Justin Hurst, telling you to keep calm and keep playing video games.